on the map, on our asset map, this land, and then Juan and Brother Dion, they went and visited it and everything like that. The first person that came to my mind was Robert Whitfield. And Robert and I have been trying to get something going together since 2018.
Yes.
Started in Duck Hill, and because we have an arts component, a SEEDS model, Achieving Sustainability Through Education and Economic Development Solutions, we have a strong focus on youth. And our youth, when we did an interview with the youth, and we asked them, if you could be something this day, what would you want to be? And unanimously, they all said smart. So we developed a hybrid STEM program, and we call it SMART, for science, math, art, reading, and technology. And so I was looking for an artist to work with, and someone told me about Robin Whitfield. And I reached out to Robin, and there was just so many things going on at that time. It just wasn't the time. So she was just starting to work on her project, developing out the nature preserve. We were still trying to find our way around this work that we were doing up in Duck Hill, but now is the time. So I reached out to Robin. I told her about what we were doing, trying to do and conceptualizing, and asked her if she could come and share with us what the work that she's doing up in Grenada around a nature preserve. And we're all about nature preserving. This woman is an incredible artist. She's an incredible artist. What she does making colors with earth, it's just amazing. So,
all right. Thank you, Ramona. I can't tell I'm honored to be in y'all's presence. I mean, after I listened to everybody, and I could probably talk about this all day. I'm going to try it for me, being brief is hard. But I intentionally know that y'all have lots of real work for you. This is very exciting. So I'm going to try to just kind of give y'all a snapshot of what we do. But I feel like in the context of this, why y'all are here today, how we came to do what we're doing, and it is important too. So, and that's not necessarily in this presentation. And part of me wants you to see what we do first, and then tell y'all our story. But what do you think? Or tell because this is more of a snapshot. I'm just gonna have a little video. Maybe I'll tell y'all actually how we came to do this first. Just maybe it'll help you. This is in 2018. I just formed my nonprofit, but 2 years prior to that, in 2016. There's a 300-acre wetland just north of our downtown. It's like our historic districts in Grenada is on one side of the river, the Yellowbusher River, and we are on the this 300-acre wetlands on the other side. It is a big swamp, and it is it's what holds the water when the Army Corps does control it. We've got Grenada Lake within a mile where it doesn't usually flood, but in 2020, 2021, that property went completely underwater. And it can't be developed. It's been zoned by the Army Corps, for non-development, but our city owns it. But it's been my spiritual home for 20 years. I mean, when I moved, I'm from Clinton, from here in the Jackson area, and I found myself living in Grenada, and I think I stayed because of this swamp, really. And I really have a really nice studio right across the river, which is a few blocks away. But all that says, I showed up one day to paint, like I did, many hundreds of times, and there was timber harvest ribbons. And, I learned later that the city had intended to cut all property to them just because they needed fast money. And so all of a sudden I was launched into this. I didn't even think. I just dove, and all of a sudden just became sort of an, environmental warrior. I was going to do whatever it took to try to do my best. And I realized I was kind of a shy person, and I learned kind of not to be. I still am, But I realized how much the community I didn't know, and I realized how important it was to know your community and do things like this, and just to be able to have people communicate and understand why something's important. So I could keep talking about that all day. What ended up happening though a lot of people who I'd never met in my life just surfaced as I would go to the council meetings. Because for different reasons, they didn't want to see our downtown looking horrible. This is the entry to our downtown. They just thought it was stupid for the city to cut trees, like for payroll. They were cutting them for payroll. So that was like, what? You're taking our 80-year-old forest for, you know. So I just loved the place, and so that's I was just very focused. But I mean, I guess, you know, artists, I didn't know that being an artist was useful in any other way than making paintings. But I mean, I'm a creative problem solver, and I'm a watercolor painter. And if y'all have ever done watercolor, you can't really control watercolor. You know, I've kind of been trained to kind of take something that I don't always know where it's going, and I don't know how to fully. I'm not even really in control of it. Like I say, that's my watercolor training helps me do this. So I started doing community work, and all of a sudden I'm getting the garden club, and I'm even getting bloggers, and I mean it's all sorts of people. And so we ended up having this idea to sell the trees for their timber value as an adoption in the city. The city manager really fought me on that, but he just knew we couldn't win. I was probably pretty sure we couldn't, but I'm thinking I'm gonna at least try. So he said 8 weeks. You got 8 weeks to raise the money, and you can only, you know, you got to be the high bidder on the timber. They're doing a timber sale, and he said if you can adopt the trees out and be the high bidder, yeah, you know. So my whole little group, not one person was negative about it. They're all like, let's do this. So they're like, GoFundMe, you know. So we made $29,000 in 8 weeks, and I had no idea what they actually wanted, but so I thought, oh, okay, they're gonna be impressed. They're gonna, even if it's not enough, you know. Well, they weren't. They were impressed, but it was not enough. So, in the end, I mean, a miracle happened. But I do believe if you just start going down a path, you don't know. Like and miracles can't be repeated. But I believe any group of people who are trying to do something this creates miracles. But, you know, miracles are things you can't predict are going to happen. That's what a miracle is to me. And to me, the energy of a group of people creates the conditions for miracles. So a guy in Jackson actually heard the story, a childhood friend of mine. He wanted to be our investor, and he purchased all the trees for us. And he wanted this place that we call Chakchuma Swamp Natural Area. He wanted it named after a man named Lee Hart, who had just been killed that same year. He was an officer for the Narcotics Bureau, and he was shot trying to save a little girl from a hostage situation. And so it's like, and that ended up being brilliant because no one could say our name. By the way, speaking of sacred ground, we named this area was called Dump Lake because that's how the city's there was all access to it. People just partied down there, dumped their couches, their whatever. I mean, but the Chakchuma are the native peoples of the Yalabusha Yazoo River. You know, a lot of people, I never heard their name. I thought Choctaws were Chickasaw were it, but the Chakchuma were our very specific group of native peoples. And so we decided to name it after them. It means red crawfish, if y'all are wondering. Red crawfish, homo red. But because it's hard to say, we were trying to rebrand too. Not that we still call our swamp Chakchuma Swamp. So in 2018, all of a sudden, okay, we go back. So yes, we got the trees. I'm like, it's kind of like getting an art degree. I was like, after I graduated, I'm like, now what? But I'm kind of used to that too. I'm like, okay, now what? Okay, we have trees. I tried to get everybody in this whole world to take the cross from me. I mean, I was like, to Nature Conservancy, to Land Trust, like, please just do something with this. And I ended up actually, someone connected me with Lady Chasnaw, who connected me with Wildlife Mississippi. I mean, these things helped me turn corners. In the end, the city didn't want to work with any of them. They just didn't. Because they wanted too much. I don't even know the language, but the holds harmless bid and all that. You know, it was too much. So I finally just had to start a nonprofit. Right as I met Ramona, I started a nonprofit with this group of hardcore people who then they became my board, like 8 of them. And we decided we had to quickly who are we? You know how it is. You're like, what's our name? Who are we? We were already called Friends of Chakchuma Swamp because we had already been working with the city for 10 years doing trails and interpretive work. And they were like, oh, well, it'll grow back. That was when I was like, okay, yeah, maybe not in my lifetime. With all the privet, all the invasive species. But anyway, so what I'm going to show y'all, so 5 years later, I can stand here and tell y'all God knew what he was doing. I'm doing the work that I never knew I needed to be doing, and I'm very joyous about it. And it's every day, new people. It's like a magnet, that you start attracting. And our very simple mission is connecting people to nature. And I've worked enough with all different types of people and also trying to get people outside. People don't just go outside anymore. They're scared of nature. A lot of it's been taught to people. I think the Black community has largely been taught to fear nature intentionally, and I think that young people's parents are scared of their children are going to get hurt, and I think even a friend of mine who's a hardcore nature person has a little girl now, and we went on a walk recently, and she didn't want her daughter get offside she would yell at her getting off the trail because she didn't want her to get a tick. These are, I guess, legit concerns, but I just see this great fear around nature when, to me, we are nature. And it is the thing, it is our most beautiful mirror that shows us who we are, and it heals us, from anxiety and all these horrible things that we, from the social media, what it does to us is the opposite of what social media does to us. It helps us be quiet and still and open. So we take care of this 300 acres now. I've gone back to forestry school because I didn't know how to take care of 300 acres. I'm almost finished with that degree. And we just play. I never really used that word. I never thought of play as being important. I said we do interpretive work. But we try to play, because if you are playful and not boring and you are fun, people are going to come. And once they're there, then they realize, wow, maybe this isn't scary. It just, in my mind, and TV made a swamp scary, and I thought snakes were everywhere, and then you were like, well, you hold a snake because we had an interpretive event. You're like, ooh, this is, I don't know. I believe in just using the arts, and I've worked with Melody at the Arts Commission. To me, the arts help people replace fear with curiosity. So I kind of want, y'all are going to see a 1-minute video, and I will just tell y'all before y'all see that video that, the song that is being played, I was randomly just walking around the swamp in 2020 in January, and I ran into a person. This is really before we've advertised it a lot, didn't know much. She had just randomly found it we're right off the interstate. And turned out she was a musician from Kansas, and I left her after we kind of talked, and she gave me her card. And she, 2 weeks later, she had written a song for the swamp, and then decided she wanted to come back and do an entire album. So now she's my good friend because she's been done many times. This is a song off that album that y'all are going to hear, and this is just stuff that happened last year. I just had this video. So, is the video? There should be a song playing. Well, y'all may not get to hear the song because it is. I'm sorry. There's an echo.
Sounds golden, like the only beach in the fall, when all the colors answer the call, taking the sweet, sweet air, listen for something there you cannot see, but they can hear and see you too, out where your soul wakes wide, where you can breathe there wide. Sunshine or rain, all things remain when colors change as they do. Birdsong whispers evergreen, like the sweet leaf in gentle winter time. sunset burns crimson like the joyful buckeye in spring, when all the colors come out to sing.
I just thought I'd give a few examples and help y'all know where this is should you want to come. And if y'all have, I'd rather have some discussion if we want to have discussion. Grenada is, because I do think, we're an urban swamp. And Grenada is about 13,000 people, so we're not tiny, we're not like Jackson is. But just if y'all don't know where we are, we're about halfway between Memphis and Jackson exactly. And this is our downtown, and we're right off 51. 51 is one of our boundaries. And the Allabusha River, which goes to Greenwood, becomes part of the Yazoo, is one of our boundaries. And we have the Grenada Lake is right there. You can see the spillways very close. And so it's actually when this is Bow Creek that comes from. Is that coming from Duck Hill area? The Army Corps can't control it. So when we do flood, it's because it can't be controlled. Thank goodness. I like it when nature can't be controlled. So and swamps should be flooded. So we're designing everything to we know that it can flood and it doesn't flood enough and nothing. Anyway, so that's kind of where we are. You can go ahead and advance this. Let's see. I think I've got a couple shots. I like maps. Maps tell you a lot,
I love that.
And so, this is a terrible. My Apple just when it translates things into PowerPoint, it just changes the color horribly. But I think drawings are sometimes easier to see than the actual photograph of a place. So when you're, this is our downtown, like my studio is like right here, off our square. But when you cross the river bridge, you've got these oxbow lakes on either side of the road, and then we've got a bottomland hardwood forest that backs up. There's pretty much no development north of town, even though we're in the city limits. So to me, this is a very unique and biodiverse place because of that. Let's see. So I really just wanted y'all to kind of see some photos. Y'all saw that video, but I couldn't stop myself. But we do, paddling is one of the things that you can kind of maybe advance a couple of slides as I'm talking. You've got some paddling going on. But we started off, I'm a big kayaker, and my friends are, and I've got friends that say, well, can I keep my boat in y'all? Like in y'all, we've got an old metal building on our stop right there. And so slowly over time, people have either donated, given, or loaned us boats. So we've got like this, like 10 boats. And then Delta State recently gave us a whole 7 canoes and a canoe rack. They were buying new ones and wanted to just get rid of their old ones. And it's just things like that's what just starts happening when you have a focus. So I will just say, should you ever want to come up, we always have boats available for you.
We are planning immersion with 3C1CA.
Oh, excellent. We all come out and we'll go on a deep dive, because I'm a believer, and if you're going to get people intrigued with nature, you have to give them the tools to be intrigued, and one of those is a boat. It's amazing how few people have ever been in a small boat that they have to paddle, kayak or canoe. So certainly this is a group that comes to us out of Greenwood every year. There are advantages. As much as I hate to say this, I love public school. I went to Clinton Public Schools, but there's a small private school that only teaches young black males, and trying to get them to graduate in Greenwood, because they have a very strong, their public school, they have their private school, all white people go to a private school, so they kind of have this middle ground. So they come every year because they're small. They can come on 2 field trips a year, and they're awesome. Their science teacher is amazing, and so they get to come and do a whole lot with us. They're actually going to come in a few weeks. All right, let's keep going. So those boats mean all the difference. Like, they come to us because we can get them out in the swamp. And so we've worked with the Master Naturalist class, and that's what this is. We keep going. I'm going to get you to kind of go fast. We do a mushroom. We do things that when we do a lot of art stuff, but we also pull in a lot of science. There's a teacher from Ole Miss that comes and does a mushroom foraging class for us. And keep going. That's him actually holding this weird little fungus coming out of a sweet gum ball. And I think I have him maybe in one more shot. I can't remember. I'll give him the next one. Yeah, that's him, Jason Hoxema. But I've learned I only try to get people who are fun. You know, because I want everyone who, no matter what you leave with, I want you to go, man, that was fun. I'm gonna go back to something they're doing. You know, keep going. That's in July 13th, by the way, if anybody wants to come up to it. So we do it every year. This is that same group from Greenwood, and you mentioned that one of the things I like to do to engage myself, but everyone to remind themselves, I have to remind myself to play sometimes when I'm out painting. I can take painting a little too seriously. I've started playing with natural pigments, but I also realize that is an invitation to anyone and everyone. I can get the just most curmudgeonly old garden club lady to any little tiny child. I can see a smile. I mean, everyone wants to go pick a berry and mash it on a piece of paper. Mm-hmm. But if I'd handed that same garden club lady some art, like an art palette, oh, I can't do that. Everyone wants to mash mud on the paper, I promise. So that's what we're doing. We went and picked poke berries. This is a poke salad, if y'all ever heard of that. The berry off of it is a phenomenal color. And just straight onto the paper, not making paint, but just mashing nature into paper. And so I can pretty much engage no one doesn't not want to do that. I mean, and these are like, some of these boys are big football boys. They were down there picking and doing. And that first shot was us. You can go back one. I should have done that one first. I like to do things where everybody does a little piece of something, and at the end you put it all together and it makes one image. So that's what we had done. We had made sort of a mandala, and everybody had like taken whatever colors they could find and done their little piece, and then we put it all together. And they probably will not remember the name of that plant, but I bet all those boys remember that experience. And so we also we do events that we do 2 big events, one in the spring and one in the fall. And this past year during the fall, these are right in September, so it's just perfect. We had these paper masks, and we invited everyone we had collected all these natural things with natural pigments. Here's a table where people are working, and they got to make a mask out of things that were growing in the swamp. And that was a lot of fun. They were running all over the swamp with their masks on. It was a whole lot of fun. We're going to do that one again. So one of the other things, the fall thing that we do is called the Enchanted Forest, and we've worked with the Arts Commission to get money for this, and we pay artists. And this year we're going to pay artists to teach community people how to make certain kinds of lanterns. We've been paying them to do the things, but we have this new vision to have them have the artists work with community members. So we have hundreds of things made by hundreds of people, and with artists being involved with that. So we work with no plastics allowed. We only work with natural materials, so they can just all fall back into the forest. If we don't want to clean certain things. So tree faces are kind of how we started this event. This is in 2020. I guess we had time we wanted people to come outside and play. So we invited groups of people to sculpt a face on different trees. And so they could go around the forest and pick up leaves and funguses. And this has also turned out to be extremely fun for families and friend groups. Our garden club started making these kind of nature, I think I'll call them wild women. And so this is one of the wild women the garden club had created along this kind of enchanted forest trail. And it's one of our garden club ladies and one of my board members. But, we do mix a lot of fancy, and maybe, I don't know if it confuses children. We're bringing in dragons and trolls equal to, we'll talk about fall bird migration and things like that as if they're, we have a whole mythological story. We have a life history of our dragons and as persimmon eaters, and they're coming through during migration, We have a lot of fun with that. But I will tell you, all this time, we've only had a swamp and an old road the city had. We finally got to put a gate up when we started leasing it. But our first big infrastructure project just got complete. It's the Bottomland Trail. I had no idea what it was. My first grant. It was my first to administer and write the Recreational Trails Program. It's awesome. I don't know if y'all have worked, have you worked with the Recreational Trails Program?
We have worked with the Recreational Trails Program, and we're going to be getting them more involved.
Okay, well, they can get up to $120,000 and just do a lot. But so this is a 3 year. They give you 3 years, or maybe 2.5. But we had to extend ours. I thought I could do all this with volunteers, and it turns out I couldn't. I needed real contractors and real equipment. This is 1.25 miles, and we wanted it to be what we call an interpreter. We do have a master. I forgot to tell y'all, I never thought that I could even do, you can just keep rolling. I never thought that I could do what I didn't know what I was doing in 2018, so we hired a landscape architect to design us a master plan. It's Native Habitats, Robert Poor. I don't know if y'all know. He does a lot of work for the museums here. He's an ecological designer. He can build, he can come, he's amazing. He works with Mississippi State a lot, or he's a product of Mississippi State. But, so we hired him.
I like him already.
I know, right? So he's helped us design this trail. But he basically looked at this 300 acres, and we talked about, we did like a kind of a charrette where we decided who's going to use this and how are they going to use it and that kind of thing. So we, in this trail, we decided this, and we're on the trail right now. I wanted to show y'all, we're doing an art workshop here, and we built these benches along the trail that kind of act as tables and benches simultaneously. And this trail is wide and smooth. I'm so sorry. And it's gravelled, and we wanted it to be accessible. Like, I don't know, I'd love to know if it's accessible to handicapped. I mean, we're very much wanting to reach out and make sure everyone can be on this trail. It's a packed surface with like a thin gravel layer. And so he designed it with this intermediate trail so that anyone strollers could be on it. We hope wheels can go down it. It's wide, it's just wide and open. We've got one section we call the wilderness area that's going to stay like a small, almost like a deer trail, and it probably will not be handicap accessible, but we want it to stay very wild, no interpretation, no benches. It's kind of like my favorite spot. And then we have what he's working on now is an interpretive area, which is, I think the very last slide, I'm going to stop here for a second, but I'm going to get, so I think the very last slide might show the interpretive area, but it's going to be where field trips, where he's going to design and build a man-made oxbow in what was an old field that the city had been dumping like concrete piles and street sweeper and, just junk, and it's full of invasive species. And so we're going to dig all that out and make an area where a field trip could come and in a very short space see a lot and be able to interact with, like, grab frogs and crawfish straight out of the man-made swamp. We don't want them doing that out of our wild swamp. But so my next adventure, I was just going to share this with y'all since I feel like we're going to be doing almost something like this in a month's time. I wrote another grant last year. I keep getting myself in trouble, right? These grants. Because then you have to, I didn't think I was going to get it. So I was like, I'll get that. Well, I got it. And I wrote it to the National Endowment for the Arts. And we realized we don't have infrastructure, but sometimes we have rain and sunshine. Something's always happening, which makes our event, there's nothing like spending months on like our enchanted forest and having it rain the night before. And so I'm like, I need a pavilion. That's what I need. So I wrote this grant, and they chose one. We were selected one of 8 communities, and so it basically got us a team of architects matched with a group from the Housing Assistance Council, who they're all about funding. And so they're coming to Grenada in a few weeks, and we've been working since last year. To build a pavilion? Well, to design a pavilion. We're going to do it's community engaged design. It's like we're going to get a room full of people like this. I've got all kind of folks coming. I think I've talked to David Lewis from the Arts Commission. He's already like, oh, I can find this.
Yeah, right.
Like, yeah, definitely. And so anyway, so we've got all kinds. So this awesome team of they've hired local architects, and they've hired my landscape architect. And that they themselves are also coming, and so we're going to invite hopefully hundreds of people to show up. I don't know. We'll see how Grenada will show up for us to give us, their thoughts on how they would like what they would the design will go with what we talk about. How big? Because I was telling you I thought of something about the size of this room where we might have like a class for 20 people, but I've gone on to hear people say, well, I want a concert, and I want a wedding, and I want I don't know. But I'm like, I keep seeing the dollar signs go up, and I'm like, oh yes, But I'm learning to be okay with that too.
Well, that's okay because we're going to have our amphitheater at the Bedford High School.
All right.
In Dakota, Mississippi. So, right?
All right, and we're going to start, and Ramona's going to tell me more about grant writing. So. We did get a MOST grant recently, too, the Mississippi Outdoor Stewardship Grant.
Lovely.
We were on we got something on the first round. And so I'm getting to know them, and I'm also hoping they're going to fund this, building of the oxbow, and maybe also, a lot of this. I hope our state continues to fund that. If y'all don't know, that's the $10 million that the state matched. Just last year, the legislature decided to match some federal dollars, and it's only going to be doing outdoor interpretive areas, restoration. It's very nature oriented. This isn't some fake thing to really do ballparks. Grenada put in 5 requests to work with their ball. They threw all that stuff out, like a walking trail at the sports complex. They're serious. They want to see serious restoration, like what y'all are doing, really. I mean, that's So we're very excited to be working with them. Let's see.
And I presented at SRID in 2020 when it was in Greenwood,
Yeah.
when they held it in Greenwood.
Okay.
Mhm.
Cool. This might be my last slide, but this is the Oxbow. This is sort of, here's the river bridge, and this is our we're trying to get money right now with most to get so the landscape architect can draw, like, or we realized after the third grant, I'm like, oh my God, I need a master plan now to look at. So I had to go back last week and ask them, would you please pay for this? I think they might. I feel like it went well, but we'll see. But anyway, so this is our main street. It just runs right through the middle. And this is where most people, this is a boat ramp into the river, and this is where most people even, you can walk up right now, and there's an old roads through here. And this is kind of our vision for, we'll probably spend the most money here and do the most interpretive things. He's talking like, zip lines and these big nets. I'm thinking, I had no idea that's what I was hiring, but now I know, dream big, right?
We are a crazy bunch, I will. Yeah. Need guardrails sometimes. Yeah. It's okay to tell us no, by the way, too.
I know. I told him. I was like, I decided to keep my mouth shut because after he tells it everything, I think we're all going to want it probably. And but anyway, I guess this might be my last slide. So we have and I do have calendars that I brought if anybody wants to just take one with you. And we have a website. And you don't have to spell check Juma. It's friends-of-cs.org. But we really, our events are awesome. We are going to be just having our boats available over spring break. You just can come up during spring break, and we'll just have them out there. I actually have some friends coming up from Jackson to paddle with us. Our Spring Wings is one of our other big kind of creative events where we have paddling, native plants, and lots of artists will be there doing. You can just walk around, and like y'all saw the picture of the little girl with the felt butterfly. I know a wool felter in town, and she has this station where you can felt it. I think this year she's doing feathers, and it's a lot of fun. And our summer camp for 9 to 12-year-olds. And then our Nature at Night is our out. We do it at night. People love nighttime, by the way, because they're busy during the day. You can catch people at night. It's mysterious. And as much as people say they're scared of swamps, they're really fascinated by them. So we get people, we do bat, we have the bat working group come up, and they put out all these mist nets which catch bats. It's for them to see who's flying, and so they're really doing science in front of us. But sometimes bats don't want to hit the nets right when you want them to. So we have spider ladies come out and give us jars, and we all go out catching spiders and learning about spiders while we're waiting on bats. So, and then we do one of our big things is we've done this for like 15 years. We knew no one was just going to come to the swamp on their own. So we have a community festival on our square, which is 3 blocks away. And so we started doing community way before the city decided to cut the trees. We were getting this big hay ride, and people can hop on our free. Everything we do is free. We try to make it free. Hop on our hay ride, and we can take them in 15 minutes to the swamp and back because they're tired. They're at a hot festival in September, and so we do like about 150 people in the course of the festival, and almost none of them have been there, and we're just trying to make them want to come back. We can get them to go there once and see, wow, it's beautiful, and we do some interpretation. It almost always brings them back to something that we do. And then our Enchanted Forest, we decided this year to do it not on, Halloween's on a Thursday, so we thought this year everyone complains that we do it on Halloween when they have to go out with their kids. So we're hoping this year, by doing it after Halloween, everyone can come and not compete with Halloween. So, anyway, does anybody have thoughts, questions?
Yeah, when I think about the canoeing and the fact that you got people that's not used to that, what measures are in place from a liability perspective when somebody flipping and being in the swamp waters and the depthness of it and things like that?
Yeah, that's a good question. It happened last year. That group that y'all showed the boys who were in the canoes, that group, one of them flipped. None of them could swim. And so they must wear a life jacket. That is a requirement for them that we have when people are in our boats, But other than that, honestly, in this swamp, you can mostly just stand up. It's rare, and most of it is not more than chest deep to a grown person. But that's just a risk they have to take. They were scared, but once you get out there, our boats are very stable. The only way you flip, and he was trying to be. The boys got very confident, and these are all boys. These are teenage boys in boats, even though they got to ramming each other and going really fast. They were like racing, and this kid barely knew how to canoe, and he whammed into a tree and flipped. you know, and like, in a sense he brought it, and I said, do not horseplay. You know, but we had a man with us too. I mean, when I go out with boys, I like to have a man with me, but he ended up having to pull the guy because the kid was so scared. He was like, ha ha! And he's like, dude, just stand up. And he's like, he could just stand up. But he lost his glasses and it was bad. But that's the only time that's ever happened. But
Do you have them sign a waiver?
yes. We have a signed waiver. We have insurance. So I believe, I think being in nature is risky. But this is what I tell everybody. Riding a car is the most dangerous thing we do, ever. It is in the top 3 of what kills all people. I mean, I've just, you know, just if you can clumps, most of us will text and drive. We don't think twice about hopping in our car. And being in nature, even in a boat, anywhere, it is. I mean, I have a very special insurance company that mostly works with natural areas because I couldn't find anybody to insure me, but they do only natural areas, and they see it all very low risk. Our insurance is very low. We have like a $2 million policy because they know from experience that there's hardly ever a claim.
So we're going to need to talk about that insurance.
Yeah. Okay. Well, it's a great company.
It's actually safer than what you think it is because Warren and I and some of the students from Columbia, when we went on the trail over to Crystal Lake, and you know, in some parts of Crystal Lake, they say it's not deep, but it is. I mean, it's like 20 feet here.
Yeah.
Then again, it may be somewhere you can stand up like 3 feet, but
Yeah.
those kayaks, if you maneuver them the right way, they'll get you out there because we toured the whole lake, went all the way back to the swamp and came back, and it was several of us out there. We had a wonderful time just getting in touch with nature and everything. And you know, even if your boats rock when big boats come through, it's gonna be fine.
Stable,
you got your life jackets on, you waivers and all of that, and you don't have to. The main thing is you don't have to worry about panicking. If you don't panic, if something happens, you'll be all right.
Even if you do panic, you'll be okay.
Yeah.
But it's just, you know, yeah. He's talking about Capital City kayaks. I mean, if y'all never gone out with them. So, all right. Well, thank y'all for having me.
Thank you so much, Robin. Okay. That is just a perfect segue. You know, everything is Ramona, everybody's heart is Ramona. That I do is intentional. Right? So I wanted Robin to create the vision first of what could be, what may be. And I have to share, Robin, our little story
Okay.
of Robin and I. We were having a conversation, and she was telling me about a guy who was working on his doctorates, and he was working on his doctorates on the outdoors, and and I think the problem that he was trying to answer was, why is it that African Americans and people of color have a fear of the outdoors? And so I just shared that because, and especially swamps, because so the swamps were burial grounds for many of our people. And the till was found in a swamp. So that fear that was created during enslavement and also during the Jim Crow area has been passed down from generation to generation to generation. And so we are hoping to mitigate those fears, create a space where we feel is safe and that we can enjoy what is very much a part of us, and nature is very much a part of us. So I just thought that it was, and he's teaching now at, isn't he teaching at,
He's the professor of outdoor recreation at Delta State
at
University.
Delta State? So
He works he started noticing he never had black students, ever. And that campus is, you know, it's like half black and half white, and it just freaked, he's not from the South. And he just could not figure out, he was like, what is this, you know? And so he's had to learn, you know, he's researched it and worked very hard to change that, and he has changed it.
yeah, he's changing.
Yeah.
So we're going to move into the next part of our agenda, and that is to, I'm turning it over
Oh, sure.
to our architects and our partners who are going to be working with us on that. Liz and her team, and we're just so excited that we were selected. And I think this project was one of 2 in Mississippi.
Right now, yeah.
Right now, one of 2 in
It's
Mississippi.
actually now one of 3.
Oh, okay. Oh, awesome. Oh, so who's the third one now?
We got another project in Clarksdale.
At Clarksdale.
Mhm.
Okay, so now it's Jackson, Hattiesburg, and Clarksdale.
Exactly.
Awesome,
Mississippi
awesome.
is showing up.
Yeah,
in this
Mississippi
program.
is really.
We're
Showing
very
up.
happy about
We're
that.
showing up. We're showing
Yeah.
up. So I'm going to turn it over.
Absolutely, and just to be clear, like we really are very excited to hear from you all today, so I might yield some of my time to Q&A so that we can talk about some of the big ideas for this parcel, but do you want to kick us off actually with like a little background on the grant, and I'll dive into
I want to back
our
up.
logistics?
I
Yeah.
want to see everyone. I'm going to stand over here.
I know.
Okay. Yeah, it's like hard to address. Okay, so as I said, my name's Kelsey. I'm with the EPA, and so yeah, just to give a little bit of context about, sorry, we're in your way again now, about why we're all here today, what EPA is offering. So EPA, and I'm sure y'all have been hearing about the Inflation Reduction Act, and how there's a bunch of funding that the federal government is trying to get out to communities. And so EPA is launching this program called the Community Change Grants Program. And so we're offering $10 million to $20 million grants to communities for projects that address pollution and climate change. All of the grants are supposed to go to disadvantaged communities. And yeah, to really help address climate and environmental justice. And so that's kind of why we're here today. One thing that EPA, I think, has come to realize over the years is that it is not always easy, Robin can attest to this, to apply for a grant, especially one of this magnitude. Yeah. And so EPA said, okay, well, we want to offer technical assistance to help communities get ready to apply for this grant. And so that's why we're here today. We hired these lovely architects. We have so many architect friends in the room. And what we really want to do is hear from you all about your vision, about the project that you want to submit for this grant, and just support you in that journey. One thing I should clarify, I'm getting better at clarifying this, is that I want to be like very transparent and upfront with you all. I am not on the review side of the grant, unfortunately. Otherwise, I would be like, let's go, Jackson. But the EPA lawyers are doing their lawyer thing, and so I'm just on the technical assistance side. So I just want to be clear that I am unfortunately not the one who will be reviewing this grant application, but I will be a big cheerleader for you on this.
And a very important resource for answering all of our questions, because the notice of funding is like 100 pages, and so it's great to have Kelsey here to help us at least translate some of the lingo as we go through this process. And I think on our end, so we've just been out to the site, which is amazing, and Ramona, you and I have talked, and it's such a perfect project in so many ways for this grant. Like the flood risks are so clear, and the amount of work that we can do to sort of make that better for these 3 communities is so evident. And I think, as is the pollution reduction, and so I think, as we think about the rest of this session today, really hearing from you guys, like what some of those other elements are that we can bring into this project so that we can get you this grant. And then also just on the logistics side, so we'll be here today listening. This is really what we call our listening session, and then in about 6 weeks we'll come back with some design options, and that will be, as Robin was sort of talking about with her project, that'll be really our charrette moment where we're making the decisions about what we want to see in this project and what we can advance forward towards the final grant proposal that you guys will be putting together as this larger team. And so we're really excited for that moment after using today to really find out what exactly we're doing here, and then we will go right back to our drawing boards with the intention of coming back to you all and really discussing in detail what makes sense for this grant. So I'm happy to answer any questions about our scope there. I'm sure Kelsey has
Any questions?
So as Emily mentioned, like we are your designers, we are your landscape architects for the next 5 months that it takes to get this package together, and so really whatever we discuss here today and over the coming months is really what we want to see in the final designs for this grant.
You don't have to just agree with them.
Totally.
Tell them what you really think.
Exactly.
But it is a start. It's we've got a short time.
It is short.
And it's a
To
short
get this
time.
thing done, and one of the reasons why this is a blessing for our communities is because it's a lot of money, it's large funding, it's going to require capacity on the side of the community, and so this helps us to build our capacity. But not only that, although we fought very hard to get EPA to change the language, shovel ready.
Yes.
I despise that phrase.
What's that?
Shovel ready,
Shovel ready.
right? Because our communities do not have the resources to put forth shovel-ready projects.
Yeah.
And that's why we advocated and fought so hard. Those of us who work in this space at the grassroots level and the community-based level for the technical assistance in order to help us to develop the plan that we would need, the designs and everything, and then to put together a massive application. And the application is massive. But we've got, you know, the strength, we've got partners who are working with us on this. We're gonna win. We're gonna win.
I asked the last question, but
I'm going to.
I don't see a lot of
Yeah,
hands.
there's no comment.
I don't see a lot of hands. And she did mention shovel ready. The grant, does it, when you write the grant, one of the things I think about is the cost of the, putting it together, not the grant, but the actual project, the cost of the project, and then sustainability once it's in place to keep it functional and things of that nature. How much is that a part of those dollars?
That's a great question. So those are things that we would put in the grant, in the application for funding to bring it to that level and to think about, you know, do we need to pay someone to do maintenance on this site? Like, what would that look like? And all those are types of things that we can ask for more funding for.
And then we can also plug in a workforce development
Yes,
component.
very
And that's going to be
important.
very,
Yes.
very key, to create jobs for the community and train them in the green economy.
But who becomes responsible for it? The city or this group?
Well, it all depends on how that's going to unfold, right? If the city is going to maintain ownership of the property, right now we've been trying to get some data and some information on the property. I'm gonna let Juan talk a little bit about the challenges that we face with that. The city of Jackson they just haven't done a good job of keeping records. Bottom line.
So if the city owns the property, do they then become responsible for whatever is put in place there?
I think it would be an idea to have what's called a community land trust,
Yeah.
and then let the community land trust be owned by the communities, and the community land trust will be able to do like Robin is doing, you know, do fundraising. I mean, we will have a sustainability strategy on the maintenance and everything. So those are just things that coming together, we can think those things through, because it's a very competitive application, and we've got to be very innovative, and we will be.
That's an excellent question, and that's like what we're here to start those conversations about. That's why you're all here, like who are the partners, who's gonna do what, who's gonna be involved, what role is everyone gonna play in this, and figure that out. You know, there's sort of parallel tracks of, you know, Liz and I are working on the design side of this, and then Miss Ramona and some of the rest of you are working in parallel tracks on other parts of the grant application. As Ms. Ramona said, it's a big grant application, so there's lots of pieces to be worked on and thought through. So I think everyone is
We
working
also
through
want to
all
address
those.
it from a public health perspective, looking at the data for those communities. The health disparities are off the chain, right? So we want to look at how can we plug in a healthy and livable communities component. So there are going to be multiple partners that we are going to bring to the table in order to, first and foremost, put forth a very competitive and innovative application. And then look at what can we do. We cannot depend on the government, right? What can we do in order to heal our communities? And it's time to heal our communities.
I think addressing that in your application too can be a strength. I think because of like your work and many other activists' work, I think that it's like starting to get through to the federal government that like the healing and you know the justice aspects of this work is so key. And I think, you know, EPA is placing a big emphasis now on environmental justice and like community healing and well-being. So I think that's another like really strong angle.
Well, a lot of people do not understand that the water crisis, right? The water crisis came as the result of flooding.
Yeah.
Because when the flood, when the Pearl River spilled over, it put so much pressure on the water treatment system that it caused it to collapse.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, we have a governor, when a reporter asked him if he thought that the water crisis was the result of climate change, right? And he just said, climate change is, those are political talking points. Well, no, they're not political talking points, right? Climate
Tell
change
that
is
to my
real,
boss
right?
Yeah.
It's real.
Yeah.
We live without water.
Yeah.
For the first time in my 72 years, I did not have access to clean water. That prompted me to start looking at Jackson differently. So,
And that's an important,
go ahead, Dora.
I think, what am I trying to say? Like part of the narrative too, right? Because EPA's mission is to protect the environment and human health.
And human health.
Yeah. And so I think that like that human health aspect is really important to address too.
So when we look at the city of Jackson, right, we see that there has been, because of divestment on many fronts, that there has been the city of Jackson, especially in the area of the communities that I live in, West Jackson and in South Jackson, they have literally been created into environmental justice, you know, sacrificed to these three communities. These three communities are sacrificed communities, right? They get sacrificed so that the $1 million homes out on the reservoir don't get flooded out. So when the reservoir, when the Ross Barnett, when the Pearl River spills over, reaches its capacity, it spills over into the Ross Barnett, then guess what ends up happening? They open up those gates, they discharge that water, and guess where it goes? Right into the three communities. Those, it's just like micro, what did you call that, after they have the main earthquake? Tremors, right? So it's the after effect. So our communities have intentionally become sacrifice communities and created into environmental justice communities.
Right.
So we see this as an opportunity to, first and foremost, for residents in the BIPOC communities to feel a sense of hope, a sense of pride that we can do it for ourselves, and with the proper support systems like you all and the resources to come, we can bring it. I want every community in our community. Why can't we have a Madison? Why do I have to drive all the way out of my community? I cannot even buy groceries in my community in Jackson. I got a problem with that.
Yeah.
That's not right. I can't ride my scooter. I used to bike a lot, right? But now I have to scoot a lot. But this brother right here, is your community walkable? Is it a handicap accessible? We don't even have half of the neighborhoods don't even have curb cut.
Well, that one is. It is now.
You're lucky.
It is now,
It is
but
now.
only because I've been fussing about it
How
for
long?
15 years.
Okay, 15 years.
It took 15 years.
Okay. No curb cuts. Come on. ADA just celebrated what?
30,
30th anniversary.
Well,
1990, so 34.
yeah, it's going to be 34.
It'll be 34
this-
years in July.
And we don't have curb cuts. There's something wrong with that.
So, in 79, when it flooded, the three communities were still primarily white.
Yes.
And did they open the gates then? Is that how it flooded?
Well, that's
That's
different.
why
They opened up all the gates.
They opened all
Well,
the
They,
All of them.
yeah.
They didn't
There's
have any
rumor
choice.
that they didn't bag the Jackson side of the Pearl River prior to that flood. Does anyone else?
They
The-
did what?
The levee downtown, the fortification levee, failed in a couple of ways, and one of them was that the levee board didn't sandbag the lowest point, which was right off fortification. It was actually there's the attorney general, no, what is it? The comptroller of the U.S. Did a report wondering why the levee failed, and number one, they didn't sandbag the lowest point, but
Which
also.
is the Jackson. I mean, it is the lowest point, but it's also the Jackson point.
Yeah.
And they did sandbag the point that was
Yeah.
to the other side,
So
to the
the-
Pearl and et cetera.
But they also, the city of Jackson built an illegal sewage pipe that effectively all the water went underneath the levee and flooded it that way too.
Okay.
So definitely poor planning, poor management.
And too much water, they didn't have any choice in the matter. And this is where we don't want to get to now. I mean, we 20 and 22 has taught us a lot, but we don't want to have to. We're at the point in time now that this could happen again, and we don't want it to happen. And when we were back there, y'all saw where we went up on the north end and we came back to the south end. Now, that property that's there, the grant that we're talking about, what have you, as Mr. Carr was saying, how much it's going to cost, it's going to be comprehensive because remember the family that lives there, the
Westbrooks?
The Westbrooks. We want to be fair to them. We want to be fair to everybody. We want to make this here a doable thing, and we want to be fair. We want to include everybody. We want everybody to know what's going on, and we want to be very transparent about this. And so, and you all are here asking us what it is that we want, and we're all three of the communities: Canton Club, Colonial Heights, McLeod. Everybody that's involved in the other, from the Audubons and who is it? The
Pearl River Keeper?
Pearl River, right. We want them to come to the table and put their say so in it because see, here's been the thing. A lot of folks are saying that nobody is inviting everybody in these type of meetings. We're inviting everybody to come to the table, the round table, to have this discussion so we can at least get some clarity and some continuity about what's really going on, and get this project developed and get the right frame of mind out there and let everybody know really what's going on. And when it comes to us writing this grant, like you said, the key components and all that, putting them together, and we're going to come out and end with a comprehensive plan that's going to help everybody. That's going to be better for everybody, and it's going to make our neighborhoods a little bit more safer than what they are now, and better, to have access to the areas that you all saw where we took you all today. Because there's some good things out there, as Robin was saying, that people need to get back out into nature and enjoy these things. Remember those lakes that we went around that we saw, they were full today because months ago when we went out there, they were empty because of the decline of water. But now, all that water that's there, you saw how invigorating it was, and the wildlife that we saw, the turtles and the frogs and all that stuff that we saw. And getting back to nature is what this whole thing is all about, and enhancing our communities at the same time. This is what we want to do.
Dion, can I ask you a question?
Sure.
If you're out there, what would you like to see out there that you think would help you get your neighbors to go explore that site? What do you think? What are some of the things that you think we need to include in this proposal that would help you be like, hey, come out here with me?
First of all, those worn trails that we were on, they could be enhanced. those cypress three swamps that we saw, they could be a little bit more, refined, and that way, remain natural, as Robin would say, and
They're so beautiful as they are.
yeah, and just keeping the area up, up to par, and a lot of that stuff that we saw that had been washed in there with the floods, we can clear that out and just make it a little bit more accessible to to people to go. That way, they wouldn't be afraid of coming out thinking that this and that might happen. So just those three things for right now.
Okay.
Well, with that thought in mind, when you start thinking in terms of this area, this project that we're considering, how much solar energy have you seen in the things that you have written grants for before and as a part of? I have a relationship with a solar affiliate, and in Mississippi that has been a challenge because you got to educate, whereas when you go west, it's so much a part of what they're doing to still be able to be functional and use natural resources in order to better serve their constituencies. But it has been a challenge to get that concept, that buy-in in the area. When you think of that in the focus of what your group does, how often do you see solar energy, and are you open to the concept of trying to make that some part of what we're doing on this project?
I would say, at least in Mississippi, we've seen a lot of that so far, a lot of interest in solar. I would say that the grant more broadly is really focused more on climate change mitigation, and I think that can take a decarbonization or alternative energy bent to it, but it doesn't necessarily have to. There are other things in addition to solar that we might think about in terms of getting our energy footprint down on this project.
In fact, there was a brother here. Oh, go ahead, Scott.
I just question. Obviously, there's a recreational goal as part of this project, right?
Yes.
Okay. Is there also a flood mitigation goal? Is there? Okay.
Like
Definitely.
smart water, flood happy or flood healthy trees, right?
Yeah.
That's part of the plan, kind of?
There's a poster I didn't hang up.
Sorry.
I'm just questioning, I just wonder if there isn't something, some way to design a park that is both aesthetically pleasing, inviting, and valued by the community, but also serves as a flood mitigation effect.
100%.
That is, you just
yes.
completely nailed what the goal is.
Okay.
Yeah. You just summed it up.
That's what we wrote the application for, flood mitigation.
Yes,
Part of
and
the
we really believe it can do that.
application is from the 2018 DEIS, which you and I have talked about. There's an appendix that talks about an alternative plan of just clearing vegetation. And if you look in this little spot, that's it, zoomed in. The outline is the property. And so there is this potential of clearing vegetation out there would possibly increase the conveyance of the river, make it flow a little faster during floods, and maybe lower flood levels. It would probably, for it to be really, really beneficial for a lot of people, you would have to clear a lot more than just that land. But the point is that landscaping could meet those three values or goals that you were describing.
Even being out there today, I think there were some things we noticed. There are a lot of, and obviously we have the information that we have, and part of what we will write into this grant application is, again, as Ms. Ramona said, this is a fast timeline. And Liz said, our technical assistance is 5 months because this grant is due in November of this year. And
Where the funding is
and the funding is gone, and it's
want to get you in early.
And it's on a rolling basis. So as people are submitting these grant applications, they're giving out money, and so we want to give you all an early shot at getting this in. And part of our deliverables are to give you a vision, to give you really compelling drawings that you can use to talk to your community, that you can include in grant applications, to collect all of the ideas of what everyone wants to see in this project. And then part of what we do is put together a cost estimate and what we call a project development plan. And so it's basically what all the next steps would be if you're successful in getting this grant, day one, Miss Ramona is calling a surveyor and getting a real topographic boundary survey of this property that tells us where every tree is and what all the topo and elevation is doing, where the blockages are, and where there's erosion and all that kind of stuff. And then there's probably a series of more detailed engineering and landscape architecture construction document plans. And then there's a bidding process to hire a contractor to come out and do the work of whatever we propose. So we are gonna spell out all those steps based on the vision that we create that would be necessary, and we will include cost estimates for all of those things so that you ask for them in the grant itself to be able to go from this vision that we all create together to building it with the grant.
And part of the case is, just making it very clear to the EPA that you guys are ready to hit the ground running when they call you with the grant, right? Like you have all the pieces already in place that you could start and really achieve this project, building it out in 3 years.
We're already ready.
I know.
Yeah.
You know we're already ready, right?
Yeah.
So if you clear that land and you build the park and you make the Pearl River flow better and it doesn't flood those homes, how does that then impact Eubanks Creek, White Oak Creek, Hanging Moss Creek? And does it impact those in any way in terms of flooding?
It's a pilot. It's a pilot in that the community came together, the community that really is leading this and saying this is what we want. So it's a step in the right direction in that we're adjusting environmental concerns, but also the autonomy, right, of the community to solve its own problems like you were talking about. We do have a lot of creeks south of all of this that need cleaning and need just smart design, I think really is what we can show.
And it becomes, I think that narrative is really important because it's like this project could be an example to other places throughout Jackson and even in the southeast about ways that we can really combine these two things of, reducing climate risk or reducing flood risk specifically in this area with a park, right? With a place that provides something to the community as a recreational asset too. So I think that's a perfect way to think about the pilot.
A question, yes. Well, two, and maybe they're too fantastical, but could we put fruit producing trees in this space if they're good at, retaining the water or helping us, good with that? And then also, cement, can we avoid cement? Is there a way to design it that we're not using concrete and cement? Because that's really,
That would certainly be.
it would be
part
like,
of, our goal.
It would have to be.
Okay,
Yeah, I mean,
good.
Because of
That's the
flooding,
green infrastructure part.
Yes.
Exactly.
Yes.
Exactly.
And
Yes.
so whether that means if our benches have to be something alternative or our pavilion, whatever we end up, then.
Yeah, and I think even going back to this question of solar, right? Is there ways that we can sort of specify certain elements that would really reduce the carbon footprint of this project too? I think it's something worth thinking.
Well,
Like
that,
bamboo.
yes, that's unique because we were thinking in one of our meetings, and you'll meet her tonight. We didn't talk about our community advisory board, our 3C1CA CAD, and so we've been talking about this project and its potential. And so public safety, of course, has come up in the discussions, right? How do we keep the crime levels low and first one thing and the other? And so I was talking about reducing carbon footprint, we can put in lighting that's solar powered.
Absolutely.
So put that in the notes.
Writing it down right now.
Along the paths, and then also having a solar-driven or solar-powered security system where residents in the community will also be able to monitor what is going on in the state, because not only do we want to reduce the crime risk and harms, but we also want to make sure that this place is not going to become a dumping ground for illegal dumping.
Yeah.
I think we have hydro. Is there enough water in there I mean, there's a lot of. Okay.
It's the flooding is intermittent. I don't know. Yeah.
Yeah.
How,
Maybe I just go away.
what is the extent does it go all the way to the Pearl River?
Yes, so it's in a couple of these maps, but it's not, so let me show this one that's a little here. This is the Pearl River right here. The three communities are Canton Club, Colonial Heights, and McLeod. This is the property, and it is adjacent to the Pearl River, and the Pearl River actually, there's like an old oxbow that goes into it, which is now like a little lake there. So yes, it goes all the way to it, and there's a large sandbar, which you can see in some of these drawings.
Here, sorry, we have some master
And I want to tell you how beautiful it is. The
Okay,
view
so
of
the
it.
question, the question is, it was Robin, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so Robin, you're absolutely right in as much as if you put people in a boat that can go and be immersed, literally surrounded by nature, it will really impact our young people
Yeah.
in a way that will be life altering for the better, right?
Yeah.
I can guarantee
It
it.
really does.
And so any kind of boat launch or kayak launch,
Needs to be accessible.
would be wonderful if it were accessible. But the question is, do we already have a boat launch on,
Not in that area,
No.
no.
not in that area?
There's an old one on the spillway. There's a old one close to the mouth of Eubanks at the LaForce Bluff. And I think they've blocked off the lakeland, sorry.
That would be like, I would be super jazzed to go to a park and be able to kayak. I mean, that would be like, wow.
So, and the Capital City, just so you know, when you're writing the grant, the Capital City Kayaking Club, is that what they're called? They've actually taken people with disabilities out on kayaks because they have a fully accessible kayak ramp. So you can contact them and they can give you all that info about how to.
We should have brought them here, though.
Yeah, I was just-
I didn't think about that.
They definitely need to be
Yeah.
one of the partners.
We've gone out with them before. Chris is
Yeah.
a good guy.
So they have all that information for you. They know how to do all that. So they've done it at the reservoirs,
So as we talk about planning, Robin, right?
Yes, right.
So when you were speaking, you mentioned the fact that even though you had some challenges with the city, you guys currently lease the space.
Yeah, and I didn't really tell y'all, I went from being an enemy to them being my best partner,
So with that thought in mind,
Yeah.
the 3C, 1C8, the communities there, somebody just mentioned maybe using solar to, operate some of the electricity and the ability to be able to monitor the property so it doesn't become has there been any consideration at some point in getting this done? But I think you have to think about it now when the property is nothing, the idea of building it up is being created right here. Going head on with the city and creating some kind of leasing agreement, for 50 years or 100 years, but maybe 99, okay. 98 just won't do, right? But my point is, maybe create something in the community that can support that park, and you already have dealt with the people. I think if you did this first, the discussion is different because now all of a sudden you have a viable asset that worth so much more.
Well, we
but if you
invited
talk
the
about
city to come, and I know we're gonna have some conversations with the city, right?
right, but right now it's not on their radar, nor is it something that it appears that interests them at all if they're not totally aware that it's theirs based on some neglect.
Well,
Go
we
ahead
did-
on with the vision, implement something that says we lease it from you, and then proceed on with this with the project, because if you flip it, all of a sudden you did something with their trash, and now they want a lot more to lease and operate and things that can benefit the group. I'm just since we're
And
discussing
we do need
this.
to be thinking about that.
We do need to be thinking about that, exactly. And, having, we did reach out to the alderman, and he did not decline the invitation, but he's out of town, isn't that correct?
That's what he told us, yes,
He
ma'am.
said that he's out of town, but he did.
Yeah, he sure is.
Spotted this morning at breakfast.
But he did ask
I
us to
believe him.
keep him informed. So since it is in his ward, you know, I think he would be our first point of contact for beginning to massage the political wheel. But there's still some clearance that's gonna have to be done on the ownership. And right now, there's just not a lot of paperwork there. And I think you're absolutely right. We should not wait until we successfully get the grant, and then because money make people do strange things.
Absolutely. In some cases, we've also written that money that you would need to procure the land into the grant, but it's worth getting a sense right now, what that would take for your organization.
So maybe we need to have an appraisal.
Y'all know Travis Crabtree? Have y'all talked to him?
He was
So I'm just saying
invited.
he used to work for the city, and he
Yeah.
might be a good, like, now that he doesn't work there, he might could walk y'all. I think he and David Lewis both used to work for the city. Y'all
Yes.
know David? He's the head of the Arts Commission now, but he was, he's an architect. He was just telling me he did urban planning, but like, maybe they could kind of talk y'all.
We didn't invite Travis.
And he RSVP'd us he was coming, so I'm not certain
Right.
what
Yeah,
happened.
he'd be a really good one, but
Yeah.
and I, now I don't know if is this remotely close to the trails they're building, those museum trails, where it could be tied in.
Can we,
I don't
real
think
quick,
it's close enough to tie in.
we've had a question here or a statement.
Okay, just a quick comment. The way to build in accessibility without concrete is permeable pavers.
Permeable paper, exactly.
Permeable, there are various designs, but some of them are hexagonal, and they're made out of recycled plastics, and you put them down as a substrate under your walkway, and it just creates a firm, stable, slip-resistant surface that you won't sink in when it gets wet or muddy. So it's like the ideal thing to do, and it's permeable, so it can flood all you want. But anyway, there are various types of those.
We could also look at
That's the way to go.
recycled rubber too, for the permeable.
Well, and I think one of the pathway types that Robin mentioned she's utilized on her site is a stabilized, it sounds like a stabilized compacted aggregate surface that can also be, is also somewhat, is permeable, but is an accessible surface.
Yeah, it was
Yes.
designed to be flooded, but it's porous and
Yes.
it's compacted, although it didn't, we tried to compact it this fall when it hadn't been raining and it didn't compact. We're hoping, we gotta get back out there and compact it.
There is something about like the water and compacting.
It had to be wet
Yeah,
for us to
wet,
really
yeah.
pack it down, yeah.
But gravel's really not.
Oh, no.
It's more like, it's very fine.
You're
When
talking about
I'm
like
talking
kind of
about
crush and
it's-
run, that super fine
Yeah.
crush
Yeah.
and run kind of
It's-
that packs into a hard, like,
Yeah.
kind of,
If you were to touch it and walk on it, you might think it seemed like concrete because it feels that hard, but it's really made up of like dust particle, like very
Compacted
fine.
dust.
Yeah. But we can test some surfaces. Maybe we'll like go see some and test them out and see which ones we like.
So one of the things that I kind of like, don't want to name it as a park, because parks suggest recreation equipment and everything like that. However, we do need a space for children to play and children to go. I just don't know if this project would be the right, if it would be the right project for more of a recreational type development. But I don't know, I guess we would need to look and, do the landscaping and how much it floods and everything like that.
I think recreational is such a broad
Such a
category
broad,
of things,
yes.
and I think most people think automatically like basketball fields and
Right,
playing fields, and I
yes.
think that there is some sort of like child-oriented recreation opportunity that would be perfect for this site, whether it's nature play.
Nature playground.
Exactly,
Okay.
or we are creating these like educational opportunities with like an interpretive area or an interpretive trail. I think that it should be, and it sounds like it's really important for you all for this to be like a joyful,
Absolutely.
child-friendly space.
And we want it to be intergenerational.
Yes, yes, absolutely. Yes.
But I definitely think there's a way to think about recreation play, like Liz mentioned, with nature play,
Yes.
that perhaps fits really well into the story of this site, but isn't like a jungle gym in the way that we think about
Yes.
a typical
Right.
playground. This is a different kind of play because we're out in the woods and you know, maybe it's logs and stumps and discovery and things like that, and art, you know, artful, interpretive.
Well, I'll tell you that, I mean, I walk at the Palm Bridges Trail right up here just about every day, and I love it. But if there were and it's, you know, it's pretty naturey, but I mean, if there were a walking trail at like in the woods, you know, on a day like today, I would much prefer to go there than I would Palm Bridges.
I can't overemphasize what a big deal it is for people with mobility disabilities to be able to get in the woods.
Yeah.
I never, ever get to go in the woods like I used to before I had multiple sclerosis. It would be a massive improvement in quality of life for folks with disabilities to be able to just get out in nature.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, I can't tell you how meaningful that would be.
And I am so happy that you raised that, Scott, because, and used that key phrase that I so love, quality of life. And increasing and improving the quality of life indicators for our communities, meaning all people. So I know that was the main reason why I wanted Christy and you in this space today to lend that voice of the people who have mobility issues. Now, I have mobility issues now, and I'm trying to decide if I'm going to go through this double knee surgery. But my mobility issues are much different than your mobility issues and other people who have mobility issues. And this must be a space for all. That's why we are going to key in and zoom in on the word inclusion. You know, the term inclusion started from the ADA community, the people with disabilities community, especially for children. Because it used to be that children who had some form of disability, they could not go to a park and play like all children could go to a park and play. And under the CCI, this is how old I am. Under the CCI model, that is when we began to advocate for inclusion, and the word inclusion came. But of course now it's been turned and been morphed into other things. But just like we want to keep it as that the nucleus of this water crisis that we had here in Jackson, stimulus time, that was the flooding. We want to make sure that inclusion does not get so broad with so many branches that we forget the seed that planted that movement, and it came from the ADA community.
Well, and if you decided to put any kind of playground equipment in this space, Lee's got a friend.
I got a friend.
I was hoping that she was
She was
supposed to be here. I don't know
Yeah,
what happened. She had planned to
She
be.
designed our place. She designed our outdoor space for the
Oh,
kids.
amazing.
Yeah, she's pretty terrific.
That's
She
great.
makes beautifully accessible playgrounds for kids with disabilities.
And she can do it at whatever
nature, what, from as modern and spaceshipy looking as natural in nature as you want to? Have you been by the little floor state park
It's
up
awesome.
there?
It's awesome.
Lori
It is
designed
Lori
that.
designed
it.
She built that park.
What's her name, Lori?
Lori Alley.
Lori Alley, she's terrific. Yeah, her,
She's amazing.
Her
work is
company is
incredible.
Moonshot Recreation.
Okay, great. Yeah, and in the past, we've also done projects like just sort of like extending this accessibility narrative, like rail trails, like people with sight and hearing impairments too. And so I think there's a lot of directions we can do that to making it inclusive.
Well, we definitely want to make that.
Because in Jackson, your able-bodied kids don't have access to the woods. So I mean, so really emphasizing that we want to, we're trying to right the wrong, right?
Actually, they have access to that hadn't been cleaned up on the side of the road on the way to their house.
Yeah.
But
And
that's the
now there's a
difference.
lot of green because there's abandoned property all throughout that's been bulldozed. There's a lot more
We're
green than
getting
there
our safe
was.
routes to school
But it ain't the
here.
kind of green
Okay.
we want.
Sorry.
Yeah.
We got a whole lot to
It's
do.
true.
One more question, can, and maybe this is already part of it, but can we be biologically native as possible and then encouraging, like wildlife and particularly birds?
I think that's
Maybe even some bird, like, he was wonderful about citing the health benefit to be in nature and to hear the birds. There's a health benefit, so if we could.
Let me tell you about the sound of that area. We got
Is it already beautiful?
You can break it to
It's
already beautiful.
It is already beautiful, and the biodiversity, and like we were like talking about all the plants we were seeing, and again we like saw turtles and frogs.
Oh, wow.
It is
so much to
already
be
there's
celebrated.
so many native species already. There's some invasive species we need to remove and remediate. But yeah, you talk about that.
Oh, planes fly over it, very close, including those like big carrier planes.
Oh,
It is
really?
loud.
It's quite
Yeah,
loud.
it's very loud.
It's very loud.
Oh, no,
yeah.
that's noise pollution. That's an environmental justice issue.
I know, noise pollution. So it's
well,
been.
you're not gonna get the National Guard, Air Force Base.
Tell them to write that thing, write that thing.
Well, so I will share my example that one that I talked about. I'm like, wait, there could be a flip side. So there's a park, I live in DC, and there's a park in DC by the airport, and it's like become this like wonderful park where people bring their families, they bring their kids to come watch the planes come in. And so it's like, I feel like they've turned maybe like a not super desirable thing perhaps into this like really cool experience. And so I think there could be space for that too.
Yeah, you're right on
It's
point.
not birds, but like
we
we're
can't
spinning
have
it, we're doing what
everything.
we can.
There were birds.
We still saw birds.
There were still birds, yeah.
I mean, y'all may want to. My landscape architect is based out of Jackson, and he's an ecological designer, and he uses how nature functions and native plants to solve the problems, and thinks how nature. He tries to think
Like
how
the
nature thinks.
biomimicry.
Yeah. I mean, he's Robert Poor, and Native Habitats is the name of that company. He's renowned. He works at the Science Museum. He's designed everything. But he's very busy. But like he's who I would consult with if I were y'all, because he's working. I mean, Bottleman Habitats is his love, and he's interpreting Bottleman Habitats for me. But
Well, one of our partners is Audubon Delta, Jill, and I'm not going to even adulterate her name. And so she would be very, very happy to hear that this is coming up in the conversation. Yeah, very, very much so.
Yeah,
I think that seems very key and very apparent when you're on the site that is something worth really dialing up.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we were just saying that the walk was an experience of walking through a whole Mississippi ecosystem, from a pine forest down into a mixed, oaks and red maples, and then you come across these low areas where there's whole cypress groves, swamps, and so it's really, there are clearly different ecological communities that you can walk through and experience and have interpretive information about, and just building on that.
And you can, it's also a site where you can like read the geology of the river almost. It's like it's got natural levees, and then you understand that there's like a back swamp behind it. And so I think each of these like special ecological moments is something we're dialing up.
So it's an outdoor classroom.
That's what I was, could it be, well, and could could it be specifically a classroom around how nature handles flooding?
Yes.
Since that's what the climate.
Like, Liz, these are your
Yeah.
people. You found your people.
No, I
I was
think,
saying
if
something
I think
that-
you,
yeah.
when you frame it that way, the EPA likes it more, right?
The EPA, yeah, loves that. Yeah. No, you're so right. Yeah.
Yeah, it is so, it's already there, with,
So-
with no work at all.
Yeah,
That's what's
yeah.
happening, so it's.
So I think we are at our
3:15.
oh, we are way over. So, but this has just been so rich, so robust. And our next, well, the next thing that was on the itinerary was we were supposed to do a tour of the 3 communities.
Right.
And then we are going to meet with our cab at 5:30. So, where's Juan? I don't know if you want to adjust.
He had no idea you would be wrapping up so soon. He left out.
Yeah, well, I think with whatever time we have, we can go, because the community advisory board meeting's not till 5:30, right?
5:30.
So we have a little bit of time.
Okay.
We could go.
Okay, well, I'm gonna submit a page and go take a little nap.
As you should.
Working
hard.
For our evening meeting, and so you are in the hands of Juan, who's already been doing it.
Yes.
And everything is good.
He didn't get us lost, and he didn't dump us in the river, so we
Okay.
feel like we're in good
Yeah, we're in
hands.
good hands. We
Only
know.
one took over, but
Yeah, he kept us from falling.
I just want to say thank you. I want to say thank you to everyone for coming and making this visioning session even more realistic. And we're going to win. We are going to win. I just feel it. I know it. So thank you. This part is adjourned. I'm going to ask Reverend Everett if he will close us out in prayer.
Dear God, our Father, we thank you for this time. We thank you for this hour. We thank you for this day. And Lord, we just ask and we pray that you would keep everybody, bind everybody, and let us stay closer and closer together. In Jesus' name we pray, amen.
Thank you for
Yeah,
everything
thank you,
and a
guys.
delicious wine.
You guys will all, you will all get emails from us to continue the conversation.
What'd you say, Warren?
I want to know this one.
Like,
Oh, as in, like, what do I do?
Yeah, he does everything.
Oh,
No, I don't do it. I don't cook. No, I don't. Tissy was removed.
Hi, Mel. That's her husband.
I like to make maps. That's all I gotta do.